Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be doing my VCT EMEA power rankings. Going to go through all 11 teams and rank them into these 5 tiers. Give a little recap of the roster changes throughout the roster window, I guess, whatever you want to call it, offseason, anything like that. And maybe a little bit of a recap of their split one and everything like that. So if you guys enjoy, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. I update these every week as I did in split one. I also update my player rankings, which I just put out a couple days ago on this channel, so go check those out. For EMEA, I just put my Pacific ones out like a week ago, and I'll be putting my Americas ones out soon. I update those every week on Twitter as well, so go follow my Twitter if you're interested in that. And yeah, let's get right into it. So we'll start with the bottom tier here, where it should have been Apex. I mean, I don't really think there's any debate that Apex would have been a much better team at this level than Gentlemates have been. They've made a roster change, bringing in Kadavra, who, I mean, I have never watched, but he seemed to be doing pretty well in tier 2 in terms of stats and everything like that. I don't put a ton of weight into that. I want to see him at this level before I make any like blatant statements on him. And Whaler seems to be better on that Sentinel role, so maybe they made upgrades from Split 1, but honestly, I don't think you can make a concrete argument that this team is better than any other team in EMEA right now. So I have to put them at the bottom here in their own tier. And it just kind of sucks because they kind of like fluked towards the end of that tournament to kind of just be the best team. And that really, like, they weren't the best team at that tournament pretty much. I don't think they were even top 2. I think Ascend might have been a better team to win. And then like Apex definitely, just because every player on that team got picked up into tier 1, and I think if you brought them all into one team that had played together for a while, I think you would have had a much better product than what Gentlemates was. Then onto the next tier, where we have mid MEA, which is just a conglomeration of mid teams, starting with Giants, who did not make any roster changes, surprisingly, after picking up Purpo to start this season, or to start the split, I guess, which was such a weird swap. But I guess Nookie has been known to have a bit of a hot head, so maybe he was becoming an issue in terms of just the team environment, and they needed to make a change, which I'd understand, honestly. But overall, I feel like this team made a pretty major downgrade with him, and also a pretty major downgrade with Rhyme coming out of the team and with Redgar coming in. I just don't think Redgar has been up to the standard that he has set for himself since Gambit. And yeah, overall, just this team has not been very good. I mean, Cloud has been a pretty nice bright spot. Hoodie has had some nice moments. Purpo, I think, has been at some points he's been good, some points he's been bad. It's just largely dependent on the agent he's playing. Honestly, I have not thought about Giants too much since I'm recording this video, so I actually don't remember which agent was the good one. I'm pretty sure, yeah, it was Raze. Usually just statistically better on that agent, and I think just eye test wise, he is also better. So I think if they can get him on more Raze, on more maps, like stop playing Breeze like they are, maybe play some other maps, I think you could see him become a better player for this team, but I don't see it with this team. I think this team needs to make a total rebuild around Cloud. And yeah, I don't think they really have much of a choice to do anything other than that, honestly. Then we have Koi, who I think performed a little bit better than expectations. I think overall, like firepower wise, they still weren't very good. Like Camo is just not a great duelist. Starzo is a fine flex player. He's had some really nice highs, but overall just isn't great. Shadow is a decent IGL. And I think you could kind of justify keeping him into next year because I think he's a solid IGL and solid individual. He's just not like really good at either one. And also, I don't think he has very good talent around him. Grabinho, I think, is solid, and I think Shados has been getting better on Sentinel overall. But overall, like, this team just is not where they need to be. I think they continue to improve throughout last split, and that's why they're at 9 rather than at 10 or 11, but still not in a good spot. Still don't have a ceiling on any given week, or like a good ceiling on any given week. Like, it's just usually, yeah, we're going to come in, we're going to play some okay Valorant, maybe come close to getting a win on a map or two, and then just be kind of bad for the rest of it. Like since I think it was what game was it? I think it was when they played Gentlemates, or was it no? It was when BBL played Gentlemates. I think they played somebody, and it was like literally the worst game ever. Oh, what it was BBL? Yeah, and they played like utter dog shit. Yeah, that was pretty bad. Um, but I think they got better from that point on throughout the season. Uh, I think they almost beat Fnatic on Bind. They lost 1-2 to Carmine Core, and then they beat Team Vitality in the last week. So I don't know. This team is in not a great spot, but they've been getting some wins. So you could see maybe down the line them continuing to pick up a couple wins, but there's no way this team makes champs. Then you have BBL, who, I mean, throughout the course of the season, they looked pretty solid most weeks. But then that last week of the season, where they actually had expectations to do something, they lose to Giants, who I have rated 10th, and then they lose to Foot in not very close fashion. So, like, yeah, you like some of these individuals, you like Elite, you like Reezy, Kushner or Brave on the day could be pretty good, but overall, like, this team doesn't have the firepower which you would expect from a Turkish team to really compete with these teams in EMEA. They can get wins over these like bottom feeder teams, like the teams in this tier and below them, and maybe some games off like Liquids and teams like that. But overall, just won't have enough individual firepower most weeks to contend with these top teams. And also, I just don't think the fundamentals are there for most of these Turkish teams. So, or like non-Foot Turkish teams. I think Foot has it down pretty well, but otherwise, I don't think it's there. Then you have Liquid, who I think you could argue should be a tier above where they are, just because they've gotten some wins. They played close with Fnatic. I guess maybe not close. Actually, that was closer than I give them credit for. Like if they won a round or two more on Ascent, then they win that game against Fnatic and move on. But they didn't, so I don't know. Then yeah, they beat Gentlemates, yeah, they beat Giants, but they kind of lost to everybody else. So I wouldn't really consider them a frisky team where they can like beat teams above them, but they can beat teams below them. I think they're just pretty solidly going to beat teams that are around their level. Now, some weeks they might look terrible but beat a bad team, and then look really good and lose to a good team, or the other way around. So I don't know, just a really weird team. I like a lot of the individuals on that team. Nats, Mystic, Yampy are the main three. I'm not the hugest Kiko guy. Um, but overall, like, yeah, they have a solid roster, but they definitely need to make changes if they want to like really win something. And then next up, we have our frisky tier, where we have two teams that any given week could kind of go either way, where they could look terrible, they could look really good. But it usually leads to them winning or losing rather than how Liquid is, where they just are just inconsistent pretty much. So first up, we got Carmine Core, and this feels low for them after making Madrid, but I feel like just since then they haven't had the great amount of like set plays and like maybe not set plays, but like set rounds and stuff like that. And the rounds that they do have that are set are kind of getting figured out, and they don't have the mid rounding from Magnum to necessarily build off of their initial strats and like set rounds and everything like that. So yeah, when they go up against these bad teams that also have bad mid rounders, like frankly Giants right now, Gentlemates aren't too great. Actually, we'll see who they played, and I'll go through that. Like when they play, yeah, Gentlemates, Giants, Koi. When they played Heretics, they played them close. When they played, I mean, I guess Navi, they didn't play them that close, actually. It was just kind of three not very close maps. Um, but overall, like, Carmine Core just, I don't think they have it anymore. Like, their individuals aren't clicking as hard. They're still very good. Like, I still think, okay, I'm still in their games list on VLR. Like I still think Martine's really good. I still think Shin's really good. Like I think everybody on this team is still really good apart from Magnum, honestly, which kind of feels shitty to say. Um, But I still believe in Martin. I think he's fine most of the time. And then he'll have some pop off games, and everything like that. So there's a lot of potential there. You'd like to see him build on that. Thomasy, I think gets nerves get to him a little bit more than the other players, but overall looks pretty good most games. Like especially during those regular season games, he was farming some of them with Cypher. Narrate has had the highest peaks on this team. I don't think has been quite as great throughout the rest of this split during split one, but is still a very, very good player. And then same thing with Shin, who is just so solid, who I think is honestly the best player on this team, despite Nere having higher peaks. I think Thomasy has had higher peaks. I think Martin has had higher peaks. I just think throughout the whole year, Shin has been their most consistent player, which is why I have him as their number one player. But now moving on, because I don't want to spend a ton of time on Carmen Core, we have Vitality moving down 3 spots, who I have been very high on throughout the year. And I'm still high on them. I still think that there's a lot of potential with this team. I still think Safe is one of the best players in the world, specifically when he's playing the duelist. I don't like him playing this more sentinel based role, which is just not what he's good at, in my opinion. But he wants to play it, so whatever. I still believe in Runner despite his stats and his general play not being up to the standard that maybe I hyped it up to be coming into the season. I still think he's been pretty good, and I still think he's shown a lot of potential. You just need to see the team really show the help him show the potential. Kicks I think has looked solid. I think Trex has looked really good, and then Sender's calling I think most of the time looks fairly solid. I just think they need to get more solid setups and just look more cohesive as a team. Um, and then I think they'll really start to show that they are one of the best teams in the MEA. The reason I have them fifth, I think, right? One, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, so sixth. Is because they haven't shown that yet. So once they do show that, I think I'll start moving them up a little bit more. They've had some really nice weeks, and they've been pretty inconsistent. They've lost to Gentlemates, lost to Koi, but they beat Foot, they beat Heretics. They played Navi a little close, I guess. That was on Lotus. Never mind, they got destroyed, or they played them close on Bind, but they got destroyed in that game. But any given week, they could pop off and just look really good. So I think they were honestly the main reason that EMEA looked as inconsistent and weird as it was. So I don't know. They have a shot to go to champs, I think, but they're kind of like a dark horse candidate, despite having a lot of talented players. I think honestly, I was really confused about the solo drop, but now that I'm actually thinking about it, I think bringing in a different coach could be a good move. Yet they're bringing in an assistant coach, so I don't know, man. It's just weird with this team. And then on to our teams that could go to events, in my opinion. And oh, well, I guess that works. I swapped around Foot and Fnatic because I realized that Leo would not be playing for Fnatic, which I would have had them over Foot here had Leo been playing. But we'll talk about Fnatic first, who I think overall, when you combine Shanghai and playoffs, had a better showing than Foot, but obviously at Shanghai, they lost to Foot. They weren't as great. Foot had some really bad games at Shanghai, like against 100 Thieves, against FPX. Those games were pretty bad. And then Fnatic's 2 games, I don't think were very great. That Gen G game was super scrappy. When they played against Foot, that game was just 2 EMEA teams, definitely. I don't know, man. Some of these games were just odd from these teams. Fnatic, their playoff form was genuinely really good. That I had them third in my power rankings going into Shanghai, but they just kind of reverted back to what they were before when they went to Shanghai. Now that Leo's coming out as well, their best player by far, I think. Um, I just don't really see this team doing a ton this split. I still think they have a really good shot to make champs, considering they got those 3 points from winning EMEA. But overall, just man, I don't know, man. Fnatic's in a weird spot because you see all of the talent on this team. I still think Boaster's doing a really good job calling. I think Durka got better throughout playoffs, even into Shanghai. He was really good there. Chronicle has been really up and down this year. Honestly, if Hero plays really well in Chronicle's role, I genuinely think there's a good shot that they roll into next year without Chronicle and with Hero. Um, so that's just my take. I think it could be mutually beneficial for both Chronicle and Fnatic to do that. But Alpier is still playing really well. I still think a lot of these individuals are playing well. I think they just need to get it together as a team a little bit more. And I think they've been antied a lot, and I think a lot of their like philosophy about the game is a little bit flawed. In terms of what Boaster said on stream, I don't agree with a lot of the stuff he said there. Despite him being a very good IGL and obviously knowing more about the game than I do, I just disagree with some of the points he's made about certain things with like using alts and stuff like that. And I also just think they've been like a little bit readable. Maybe not readable, but like tendency, like the like tendencies and that kind of stuff are becoming more readable just because they've played so many games at such a high level throughout the past like 2 years. So I don't know. That's just me. Uh, that's probably not just me, honestly. It's a lot of people, and I feel a little bit less strongly about it than some people clearly do on the internet. But I don't know. Then we have Foot, who I think, in a similar vein, have a lot of very good individual players. I think specifically CNED, Yedoje, and Ada Captain are three very good players, and Mr. Fallen is a pretty good individual on the IGL. I just think Krax is a little too inconsistent for this team to be like where they want to be as one of the better teams in these tournaments, like a team that could maybe make top three, top four, um, and really challenge for a trophy. That's honestly what I thought they'd be coming into the year. I think that's where I had them ranked. Maybe that's what I had them ranked coming into. No, it was coming into the year I had them ranked like that, and then coming into split one I had them ranked a little bit lower. Sorry, I'm trying to remember every every ranking I had, and that's not easy. But regardless, did not show up against 100 Thieves, did not show up against FPX, and really did not show up against Heretics. Just, I think they're a little further behind than you'd want them to be. Maybe a roster change or two away still, but still a very, very good team, and a team that should be going to champs for EMEA. Then you have Navi, who, apart from making a random coaching change, really should. I mean, they also should have probably gone to Shanghai. Like, if we're being real, if they got swapped with Fnatic or Team Liquid, they go to Shanghai. Like, if you swap them and let's say Fnatic for per se, they beat Liquid, then they beat Carmine Core, and then they're in Shanghai. If you swap them with Liquid, they beat Fnatic, then they beat Carmine Core, then they're in Shanghai. Like, either way you slice it, if they don't play Heretics, then they're in. So just probably a top 4 team in EMEA. And I just personally, after Foot and Fnatic showings at Shanghai, I do rate Navi a little bit higher. If Navi change their roles back to Shawan Initiator and Angel on Smokes, I think this team could honestly be in this top tier with Heretics. But I just don't see it right now. I think Heretics are just a little further ahead of the pack, especially with Woot coming in, playing full time for this team, and them actually getting the roster that they want in here. Obviously, Patty was very good, but I think Woot's showing on the duelist at Shanghai really just shows how good of a player he is. So when Mini Boo's going to be dominating on the Neon, when Woot's going to be playing really well on the Flex, I don't think he's going to play quite as well as he did at Shanghai really ever again, unless he gets another shot on duelist on another team. Rian's is an extremely good initiator player. Boo is a pretty good IGL and a solid individual. I don't think he's anything special on either of those roles, but he's still more than good enough for this team, especially in terms of with the vibes with Mini Boo. And then Benji Fishy is one of the best players in the world on that Sentinel role. Just so good. And yeah, this team is just so stacked. Heretics are. I think Navi is really the only team that can truly compete with them in firepower right now. And yeah, they're just by far the best team in the EMEA. So with that, that'll be the end of the video. Let me know what you guys thought in the comments below. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.